Hello, welcome to Blue Spoon. I'm Maddie McGee. I'm here to provide you with the context to make the best decisions for your families, namely nutrition awareness. All right, so today we're talking about artificial fluoridation of public water supplies. And right now, we got to go over the facts. What is going on in the world? In the United States, the National Cancer Institute says that about 3/4 of the United States population drinks fluoridated water. Okay? And around the world, 25 total countries have implemented some sort of artificial fluoridation of their water supplies. These include countries like Australia, New Zealand, Canada, Brazil, Argentina, Hong Kong, Singapore, things of this nature. Now, if you look in Western Europe, only 3 countries have implemented some sort of a program, and that's the UK, Ireland, and Spain. Interesting to note. Now, why do they fluoridate water? What's going on with that? To answer this super easily is it builds strong teeth. It helps prevent tooth decay, and it can help prevent cavities. Boom. That's the easy answer. But the more difficult answer, we're going to have to dive in a little bit of the context of how it was created and why. And that really just involves the history. So we're going to dive into that real quick. So, in the early 1900s, in about 1909, Dr. Frederick Mackay left Pennsylvania and moved over to Colorado Springs. And in doing so, he found that in where he was living, about 90% of the kids over there had these really dark stains on their teeth. And he couldn't figure out why, right? He looked at the soil quality, he looked at the air quality, he looked at the foods they were eating, he looked at the water sources, and ultimately, he figured out, okay, it has to be coming from the water supply because it's only affecting my town and not any of the towns next to mine. It's got to come from the water supply. All right, fast forward about 15 years. Alcoa, the aluminum company of America, they are in Bauxite, Arkansas, digging for bauxite, which is the aluminum ore that they need to make aluminum, right? And so they dig 3 new wells because the population of this town is starting to grow. And a few years later, all these kids start developing these thick brown stains on their teeth. The town is in uproar, and they try to sue this company and trying to say, like, it's your aluminum products that are hurting our kids. Alcoa's like, whoa there, let's take a second. Let's get to the bottom of this, all right? So their chemists analyze the water, and they find that in these wells, these deep wells, there's an unusually high amount of fluorine in it. The University of Arizona then does a little bit of research on animals and finds that, feed these animals more fluorine during their development, then they will develop these dark brown stains on their teeth. In Belgium in 1930, a thick smog comes over this town, and about 60 people die, right? And so many other people get sick. And the research indicates that these aluminum smelting plants are really the cause of it because they're releasing fluoride gases into the air, right? So right now, fluoride has a terrible name in the world. People are like, wow, this is bad news bears. Now, re-enter Dr. Mackay. There's a 60% decrease in tooth decay and cavities in the people that have these brown stains, fluorosis stains on their teeth. Right? This was kind of amazing. In 1916, the United States Army had to essentially turn away about 1/3 of potential recruits because of some sort of problem with their mouth, with their cavities and things. So the United States government said, all right, we need to shift away from fighting fluorosis, and we really need to fight cavities and tooth decay. So this dentist and the chief of dental research at the National Institute of Health, Dean Trenley, he set out to find this optimal amount of fluoride to have in our water supply because that's where everyone else had previously been getting it, right? And he searches all over the world and he finds, okay, the optimal amount is 1 part per million. That's 1 milligram per liter of water. Perfect amount. So after a few years, they say, all right, if this is really the optimum amount, we need to do some sort of a study. And so he partners with the University of Michigan, and they say, okay, let's do this in Grand Rapids and in Muskegon, Michigan. 15-year study, and we're gonna fluoridate the water of Grand Rapids, and we're gonna use Muskegon as a control, right? 6 years later, Muskegon was like, yo, no way, you're controlling us, you're just like holding us back from all these problems, we're quitting the study. All right, so basically all these other communities were like, yo, we're going to fluoridate our water before the study is finished. And Muskegon was like, okay, you know what, we're going to do the same thing. So now this idea of all these different populations, all these different communities want to fluoridate their water, and so they're like, all right, what are we going to do? John Frisch writes to Alcoa and he says, yo, we need sodium fluoride. And Alcoa is like, wow, you want sodium fluoride? That's awesome because we have it. It's a waste product from all of our aluminum mining. They essentially just give it, they sell it, it's a new business to the public, and it gets put into our water supply. And that's where we're getting our fluorine in the water. In early 2011, the EPA reduced the recommendation from 1 part per million to 0.7 parts per million because there was too much exposure to the public of fluorine. William Hersey, the lead scientist of the EPA, saw to that only pharmaceutical-grade sodium fluoride could be implemented into our water. Let's fast forward again to present day. Do countries that fluoridate water, do they have more or less cavities than countries that don't fluoridate water? France and Sweden do not fluoridate their water, and they have the same amount of cavities as anyone else. Non-fluoridated British Columbia in Canada, they have less cavities than fluoridated Ontario. Okay, so there is this idea of, all right, then, you know, fluoridating the water doesn't always match up. Does topical fluoride help? Items such as fluoridated toothpaste, fluoridated mouthwashes, fluoridated gels, the dentists use them all the time. The research says yes. Topical fluorine is equally, if not more effective than, all right, restart. Topical fluoride is more effective than ingested fluoride from water. If we are getting enough topical fluoride and we're also drinking it, then you might think, okay, there must be a lot of people suffering from fluorosis in the United States. National Institute of Health says, yes, that's true. In 1986 and 87, about 22% of the population was suffering from some degree of dental fluorosis. 1999 to 2004, about 41%. And in 2011 to 2012, 65% of people suffer from some form of dental fluorosis. These are kids between 12 and 15 years old. The European Union of Public Health says no obvious advantage appears in favor of water fluoridation compared with topical prevention. Interesting. The Scientific Committee on Health and Environmental Risks, SHARE, said that the efficacy of population-based policies, drinking water, milk fortification, salt fluorination, it remains insufficiently substantiated. Now, let's go to the CDC in the United States. They say that almost every medical and dental professional would recommend water fluorination. This is also one of the top 10 greatest public health achievements of the 20th century. What are the key take-homes here? One is that the United States generally has fluoridated water. You can actually go on the CDC's website and find My Water's Fluoride, and you can find out whether your state participates and whether or not your local government is fluoridating your water. The EPA is supposed to notify you if fluoridation in your water exceeds 2 parts per million. 2, topical fluoride is more effective than water fluoride, but water fluoride was very, very effective in the past. And 3, let's talk about what the American Dental Association talks about fluoride, okay, because you really only need it in your mouth. It doesn't carry a whole lot of girth outside of your mouth, right? From 0 to 3 years old, you want your kids to have a tiny little bit of fluoridated toothpaste, maybe the size of a grain of rice. From 3 to 8 years old, you want to still use fluoridated toothpaste, maybe the size of a pea. Toothpaste, fluoridated, good for adults, good for kids. Thanks for listening. I hope you learned a little bit about the context of fluoridating your water supply. Thanks for listening. I hope you learned a little bit about the context of fluoridating water. Tune in next time at Blue Spoon. Cheers.